Hello, bat friends. My name is Illyria, and welcome back to story time. Where's my book? There's my book, where we will be continuing on with Dead of Winter. Okay, chapter 17. Levi didn't miss Oregon, except for the time he'd spent with Miss Subaru. At least he'd finally settled the dilemma with Mom. He half jogged toward the water and kicked a small seashell into the ocean. The brown striped comb tumbled and spun before disappearing into the foam. So, what do you think? Does the Gulf of Mexico look any different than the Pacific Ocean? Cat shrugged. Water's water, but it's a lot prettier in Oregon. Florida is sort of flat all over. Levi laughed. The scenery may not be as nice, but I'll take this weather. Stuff grows year-round here. Plenty of chances for landscaping work. What about going back to school? You said you might want to learn computers and stuff. Still considering taking a few classes, but I've got to make some money first. Still considering taking a few classes, but I've got to make some money first. I need to get us out of that dumpy motel into something a little nicer. An apartment, or maybe even a rental home. Cool. That motel gives me the creeps. She looked at the pink tinge spreading across her pale arms. I can't stay out here too long. Don't want to ruin my goth image. I'd have to buy all new makeup. Tell you what. Let's check out coffee shops near the beach and see if we can find you a job. We'll swing by an ATM and I'll grab some cash. You got any money left in your account? She grabbed Levi's hand in hers and swung them as they wandered along the beach. Thank you for the daily tip. Welcome in, senpai. Less than 100. Not much to start a new life on. She scrunched her nose and glanced up. Is that what we're going to do here? Start a new life? Phil. You can try again. 93, it doesn't have to be. I mean, clearly 93 is still a lot better than the the epic 4% that he had got. 461. That's better. And I think you have one more try if you want to try for something a little higher. Whoa! There you go, 990. I think that's the highest one for today. Nice. The beginning pangs of a headache crawled from the back of his skull toward his forehead. He stopped, clasped Kat's free hand, and stared into her eyes. He tilted his head from side to side, squinting, trying to see inside her. You know, Kat, I've spent a lot of time looking for the right girl. And I think I've found her.
We will accept this.
Indeed, I think that is more than adequate. Really? She threw her arms around his neck. I felt the same way about you. She released him and slipped her arm around his waist. Take me job hunting. I'm ready to get this new life started. He rubbed his chest and clenched his teeth together. His headache stood, stretched, and sprinted to the front of his brain. Half an hour later, they cruised the area, checking out coffee houses and restaurants. Kat had already turned down one job offer after seeing the clientele was mostly young people. Terrible tippers, she said. He turned into a bank parking lot and hopped out. Wait here. I'm gonna grab some cash. Be right back. At the ATM, he punched in his code and opted for the first cash dispersal of $200. He folded the 20s and put them in his front pocket before hitting the balance inquiry button. As he pressed it, a reflection appeared on the screen. He jerked his head around and nearly knocked Kat to the ground. I thought I told you to stay in the car. His pulse drumbeat in his ears, blurring his vision. Kat blinked rapidly. I wanted to make a withdrawal from my account too. What's the big deal? No big deal. You scared me, that's all. He closed his eyes and forced himself to slow his breathing. Yeah, well, you scared me too. So I guess we're even. She poked him in the stomach and twisted her finger. Okay? Yeah. He pulled her finger to his lips and kissed it. Okay. He walked toward the car and tried to shake off the incident. Something nagged at him. Something important. Think. He patted his front pocket where the 20s rested. He turned slowly and looked back toward the ATM. Kat stood there, mouth and eyes wide open, holding his balance inquiry in her hand. Oh, Rahab. Just when things were going so well. Levi? What is this? Lie or truth? Would she believe either? Didn't matter, really. What, babe? She extended her arms toward him, one hand holding the receipt, the other palm up. Your balance is almost $500,000. He frowned and scratched his cheek. What? That has to be a mistake. I wish I had that kind of money. Check your balance again. Let's see if it's still there. We could use the money to do anything we wanted. She shifted her weight from leg to leg. Levi walked toward her, nodding and furrowing his eyebrows. We could, but baby, Kat, it's some sort of bank error. She crossed her arms, head cocked, right eye squinting. Mistake or not, it's in your account. I say we get what we can before they figure it out. He planted his arms around her waist and guided her to the car. His heart raced, the seed of anticipation planted. Let's go somewhere and talk about this. Figure out if that's what we should do. What's to talk about? Who knows how long the money will be there? Exactly. Levi brushed the back of his hand across his mouth. A taste of sweat lingering on his tongue, reminding him, salt of the earth, discipline. Was he losing his saltiness? Kat wrapped herself around his arm. Levi, I'm serious. That's enough money to go anywhere, do anything. Just you and me. She pulled him close, shoving her hands into his back jean pockets and tucking her head under his chin. We can disappear. Not we. You. He tilted her face upward and brushed her forehead with his lips. The lavender scent of her shampoo mixed with the beach odors. He sighed. Time to get my saltiness back. Okay, he said. You wait in the car while I figure out how to do this. She pecked him on the cheek. I love you. She walked, almost skipped, really, to their vehicle and clambered into the passenger seat. After a wave and a smile, Levi turned and headed toward the bank. He took a few steps, paused, and hustled back to the car, opening the rear driver's side door. "Everything okay?" Kat asked. Levi unburied his black duffel bag. "Yeah. Thought I might need extra ID. I think my social security card is in here." Thank you for the daily dab, Ellie. Welcome in. I hope you are doing the splendid today. Kat patted her hands on her thighs and stared at the bank. I am so excited. It's like God wants us to be happy or something. He filled a syringe and glanced at her exposed neck, the blue streak of her hair pointing to its target. The red-winged fairy tattoo. That's one more needle mark there. Less than 3 seconds later, the propofol began to work. Thank you for the daily dab. Welcome in. Wow, Mike, I hope you're doing the splendid today, and welcome back.
Thank you for your patronage.
Oh, bye, Streamy Strings. Oh, thank you for your patronage. Much appreciated. Thank you for being here. Propofol. There it is. She spun around. A finger pressed on the injection site. Her lips parted and eyes unfocused. "Oh, Rahab," he said. "God doesn't want us to be happy." Kat slumped forward, slamming her head against the dash. Levi exited the back seat and walked to the passenger door, pausing to watch seagulls fight over French fry scraps several parking spots away. Stupid birds. Always fighting. He opened the door, tilted Kat upright, and fastened the seatbelt. Her breathing was shallow and slowing. He swept the back of his fingers across her cheek and looped her hair behind her ear, leaning close enough to nuzzle his nose against the side of her head. He waited as long as he dared. "My headache's gone, Kat. Thank you. And God doesn't want us to be happy. Obedient. God wants us to be obedient." Okay, chapter 18. Jeremy paced the floor of his El Paso hotel room, phone in one hand, Diet Coke in the other. 3 days he had been cooped up here waiting for Maggie to finish her investigation in Pleasant View. The pressure of doing nothing had swelled until he decided to take action and contact the man responsible for his current situation. And after an appropriate delay, Colonel Ramsay Kronfeld had finally returned his call. "I thought we had an understanding." A snort from the other end of the line. "That what?" "That what you thought an understanding. Must have missed the memo. Don't know why you have to make this so difficult, Winter. Honestly, after all I've done for you." "Done for me?" "Of course. Early retirement from the FBI with full benefits. I think something like that comes easy." Jeremy downed the last of his drink and crushed the can. "I suppose it does if your wife's a senator and presidential candidate." "Maybe. Remember that what's given can easily be taken away. I ask so little in return. A signature on a form. Think of it as an insurance policy for both of us. Yeah, I keep my mouth shut about Afghanistan, and you? What? Quit interfering with my life? Restore my contractor status at the Bureau? Kronfeld sighed. You think too small, Mr. Winter. The future's full of possibilities. Some greater than you can imagine. Others, well, not as nice. And I'm going to let you choose. I think you've got an idea what I'm capable of either way. Jeremy glanced at his open briefcase. 3 pieces of paper folded and tucked in a manila envelope. Delivered to him at the hospital while he recovered from the incident at the Mason farm. An official government report in his interrogations in Afghanistan. Every name redacted except his. And all true, save one detail. In spite of what the document said, he'd never killed any prisoners. Put my clanker down. Jesus. Yes, I know, you be using the AI generated stuff for your Twitch story announcements, I know that. You should put your clanker down. But I'm not gonna judge you for doing that. There are way worse uses of AI. He squeezed the phone and clenched his teeth. Don't threaten me again. The truth finds a way, Kronfeld. And we both know the facts are on my side. The facts are what I make them. You'd do well to think about that. But why dwell on the negative? Change is in the wind, my friend. Just think what a man in my position could offer someone like you once I'm in the White House. A long time between now and the election. 21 months? I imagine your wife's considering her options. Thinking if she dumps her baggage now, there's plenty of time to deal with any fallout. The colonel chuckled. Now who's threatening? Be careful you don't misread the situation. You have no idea how simple it is to ruin someone's life. Just takes a bullet, right? Goodbye, Mr. Winter. Our little dance has become tedious. Sign the confidentiality agreement by tomorrow morning, or not. It's your future. Jeremy threw his phone onto the hotel bed and shoved his hands in his pockets. Anger boiled in his chest as he threatened to erupt. Why now? Just when they'd started to make progress in the case. He had to get out of the room, burn off of rage before the long flight home. Calm down. Before he talked to Maggie. Chase the thoughts that told him to end this once and for all. Only one problem. He couldn't decide whether to race away from the thoughts or rush toward them. Jeremy sank onto the edge of Maggie's hotel bed while she sat at the desk and used her laptop to access the conference call. She could see the other attendees, but had left her camera turned off after warning him to stay quiet. Yay! Good for you! Nice new badge. Looking pretty spectacular. Okay, carry on. That's okay. We can. I have a button. Hold on. I have a button. Do I have a button for that one? I know I have this one. I have a command, but evidently I don't have a button. Here we go.
Lord!
I have 2 buttons. Congratulations. Yes, very Nika. Fortunately, Director Bailey couldn't attend, so there'd be no one to question whether Jeremy was present. It'd have to be a short call. Their flight departed in less than 2 hours. Cody Talbot graduated from the University of Texas College of Pharmacy in Austin, Maggie said. By all accounts, he was an above-average student. Stayed off campus in a 2-bedroom apartment, new roommates. Crime techs are going through his old place now. As near as we can tell, she continued, his tuition, books, apartment, everything was paid for by his mother. Her bank records show regular deposits, always in cash. Sporadic larger amounts seemed to indicate that when she needed more money, she got it. Our assumption is the funds were coming from her husband, Anthony Talbot. Agent Greg Simpson, aka Blondie, spoke. Federal regulations require all pharmacists to be fingerprinted. Cody Talbot's prints are on file, but as you know, we've never recovered any from a crime scene. Nothing to match them to. We do, however, have this. He held up a plastic evidence bag with a white index card inside. This is a motel registration form from Portland, completed by a gentleman named Astor Bellis from Chicago. Interesting name. Turns out, it's one of the scientific designations for daisies. Even more interesting is the fact that Cody Talbot's fingerprints are on this card. We're checking motels in the cities where the other girls were killed to see if he used the same alias there. As an agent in a paisley tie and blue shirt interrupted. Scale of 1 to 10, is Cody Talbot our guy? The question would not have been asked if the director was present. Paisley? Is that back again? Jeremy leaned over and scribbled a number on the notepad beside Maggie. She frowned and brushed him away. 9.9, she answered. Everything points his way. DNA confirmed the body found at his home is Sandra Kesson, his old girlfriend. Cause of death is undetermined still. We think she's the trigger to all this. The concubine who ran away. There's a lot we don't know, but all indications are he's our perpetrator. We're open to other possibilities, but right now our #1 priority is finding Cody Talbot. Blondie pointed at the screen. Any luck tracking the financials? His mother has 1 credit card, Maggie said, and we're getting a warrant to access the charges. Witnesses at the motel in Portland could not positively identify the older woman, but we're confident she was Charlene Talbot. She may be involved, or she may be completely unaware of what's going on. An agent in the back spoke up. Is Anthony Talbot providing their living expenses? Maggie shook her head. Not as far as we can tell. There have been no unusual deposits into her account. In fact, her money hasn't been accessed for months, which means there's another source of funds. It's possible Cody has money we haven't found yet, probably under an assumed name. If this is our guy, Blondie asked, Why now? Assuming he killed the girl in the house right after he started college, what triggered him to begin killing again? I mean, he was in school for what, 7 or 8 years? That's a long time to lay low and then suddenly start murdering people. He may not have stopped, Maggie said. Austin PD and the Texas Rangers are reviewing cold cases for anything that might fit Talbot's cycle. By now, he's left Oregon and is headed to find his next target. Did you get the Tribune? Paisley Ty tossed a newspaper on the table. The Chicago office has a letter Talbot or whoever sent. Didn't take the Trib long to figure it out. Serial killer stalking Supreme Court. Nice headline. Any luck finding a photo of Cody Talbot? Maggie asked. Now that the story's gone public, why not plaster his picture everywhere? Another agent shuffled through some papers and held up a color copy of a University of Texas identification card. That picture look familiar to anyone? Looks like a young George Clooney, Maggie said. The agent nodded. That's because it is a young George Clooney. Someone hacked into their system and changed his photo. Talbot altered the school's database, or he paid someone else to do it. Driver's license? Blondie asked. Doesn't have one, the agent said. Either never bothered to get a license or most likely has a fake. He was homeschooled, so no yearbook photos, not on any social networks either. The bottom line is we do not have a reliable photo of him. We're holding off on doing sketches for now. Too vague. What we do have is a photo of Charlene Talbot, Maggie said. The picture's old, but the lab says they can enhance the image. They're aging her, and we should have a good idea of what she looks like now. We can have the Chicago News run the photo and call her a person of interest in the case. What if Chicago's not his next target? Agent Paisley said. Shouldn't we distribute the picture in the other 4 cities too? I'll bounce it off the director, but wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't want to go nationwide with the story or photo yet. Maggie shrugged. Won't make much difference. The Tribune's article will be picked up by most major news outlets. The story will be all over the country soon enough. A young agent raised his hand. Anything in the car? Maggie shook her head. Nothing. The auto they abandoned in Portland was clean. The elderly woman who spotted the car near the scene confirmed it was the same one. So far, running the list of stolen vehicles hasn't turned up anything. Paisley Ty clicked his pen. So, if I can summarize, we know who we're looking for, but we don't know where he is, what he looks like, or what he's driving. But we do know who he's with, Jeremy said. Maggie swatted at him and frowned. Blondie smiled and craned towards the camera. Well, hello there, Mr. Winter. Must have been killing you to keep quiet, huh? I'll let you in on a secret. We had a betting pool going on whether you'd be on the call. In the background, of course. Problem is, no one wanted to bet against you joining. Now that we've confirmed you're here, anything you'd like to add? Jeremy cleared his throat. We know who he's with. That's a start. Once you, get the access to her credit card, hopefully later today, you may get more information. In the meantime, there's another avenue of investigation you need to pursue. Maggie can fill you in. She turned on the laptop's camera and held up the old photo. That's Anthony Talbot, standing next to Charlene. The lab's aging him as well. We need to know where he's been and what he's been up to. Nobody drops off the grid like this long without something to hide. He's got money, and no one except the Talbots seem to know he's alive. Southwest Texas and easy access to Mexico. I'm no rocket surgeon, but my money's on drugs. Right, Jeremy said. Once you get the updated image, run it through facial recognition software. Maybe we'll get lucky. Maggie's also sending the photo to the DEA and Border Patrol. The agent in the back cleared his throat. I don't understand what the father's agenda is. Everybody thinks you're dead. You've got wads of cash from somewhere, and you let your kid run around the country killing people? Doesn't make sense. If it was me, the last thing I'd want is to bring any attention to my direction. Jeremy nodded. Agreed. I'd be surprised if Anthony knew what Cody was doing. Far too risky for everyone involved. Nope. Either Cody's doing this on his own, or his mother's working with him. That doesn't mean Anthony can't be useful to us. There may be regular communication between them. We can't find any records of cell phones, but didn't expect we would. They're probably using prepaid phones and trashing them when the minutes expire. Maggie's cell phone pinged, and she glanced at the screen. Got the warrant for Charlene's credit card. Let's go ahead and break. I'm heading to the airport, and I'll recap for Director Bailey there. Agent Simpson, when we get Anthony Talbot's updated photo, I'd like you to run points with the DEA and Border Patrol. Agent Simpson nodded. All over it. Thank you, gentlemen. She shut down the laptop and shoved it into her carry-on bag. Let's head to the airport. With any luck, I'll have the credit card records before the flight leaves, and we can review them on the plane. Sorry about that, Maggie. Jumping in the call, I mean. She half smiled. Don't worry about it. He placed his hands on her shoulders. No, I mean it. This is your case now. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next, but I won't put you in that situation again. Promise. Thanks. I know how hard this must be for you, especially now that Kronfeld's breathing down your neck. And like I said, I'll keep you in the loop as much as I can. Don't want all your experience to be wasted. Experience? That's just a nice way of saying I'm old, isn't it? She kissed him, grabbed her luggage, and headed for the door. Let's go, old man. If you want to peek at those credit card records, you're going to have to keep up. Chapter 19. Jeremy stared out the plane window at the vast open flatlands below. Such an easy place to hide. Not too hospitable, maybe, but if you didn't want to be found, there's a place to do it. Anything interesting? Maggie skimmed Charlene Talbot's credit card statements a third time, highlighting any charges that might be useful. Almost all of the items listed came from online stores like Amazon, Urban Outfitters, and eBay. Lots of internet orders. I'll start the paperwork for the warrants. What they're buying and where it was shipped, anything that will help us tie them to the cities where the murders happened. It'll take weeks before we can get any answers, though. He tensed his leg muscles, stretching as much as possible in the confined space of the plane's seat. After the layover in Dallas, still 2.5 hours to landing, long flights sucked. But his seatmate eased the pain considerably. Tired of being one step behind this guy all the time. Maggie covered her mouth and yawned. Seems to me, when we started, we were a lot more than one step behind him. At least we're gaining. Always the optimist, huh? You know the problem with tracking serial killers, don't you? They operate on a bell curve. I really want to agree with you, but since I have no idea what you're talking about, I'll wait for an explanation. Jeremy grabbed the Sky Mall catalog and sketched a bell next to a photo of a Bigfoot tree sculpture. See? The first killing, or two, are over here at the bottom left of the bell. He's new at it, and no matter how much he plans, he makes mistakes. But the more he kills, he traces his finger along the bell, heading upward, the better he gets. The killing becomes a rhythm, a pattern, focused. Maggie nodded, so when he reaches the top of the bell, he becomes overconfident. Starts to think he's invincible, that he'll never be caught. He tracked the downward side of the bell. He makes mistakes, gets lazy. That's when most of them are caught. He pointed back at the bottom left of the bell. If you don't catch them right when they begin killing, then you're not going to catch them until they start to slide down. Unless you're lucky. Very lucky. So where do you figure Talbot is on your curve? No idea. 9 Supreme Court judges. And if I thought he'd stop then, I'd say he had to be somewhere near the top. He's not, is he? Sticking to 9 girls. Serial killers don't stop. They may go quiet for a while, but they start again. Sandra Kesson didn't count for him. All her finger bones were there. Maybe she was his first, maybe not. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's already in double digits. Then this whole thing about judges is just a ruse? Some sort of game to him? Jeremy frowned. I don't think so. He wouldn't be the first person to think he was God's personal avenging angel. Yeah, Maggie said. Like God needs the help. Jeremy held up his plastic cup and motioned to the flight attendant. Meaning? Meaning God can take care of himself. Why would he need me, or you, or Cody Talbot to do his dirty work? And you believe that? She nodded. I do. I have to. This guy we're after, when we catch him, what happens? Maybe he dies, or maybe he spends the rest of his life in prison. Either way, it doesn't seem like it's enough. All the lives he's taken, all the families left behind to deal with loss. I've seen enough to believe, or maybe hope, that people will pay for what they've done. Haven't you? He waited while the flight attendant refilled his water. It's a nice thought. I suppose one way or another, we will pay for what we've done. For better or worse. He nudged his shoulder against hers. I'll take for better, please. She grinned and slid the laptop onto his tray. You look at these for a while. My eyes could use a break. He dragged his finger down the list of credit card charges, pausing when one caught his attention. Here, what's this? Yeah, I saw that one. A Canadian pharmacy. No other charges from there in the past couple of months. I've got a friend up that way who may be able to help us out. Sometimes regulations can be a little, shall we say, looser north of the border. I'd focus on that one. We know Talbot's a pharmacist. Could be that's where he's getting the propofol. Possibly. I'll shoot off an email, see if I can have the info before we land. She fired off a message, grabbed the blanket from the seat back, and spread the thin cover over her. In the meantime, I'm going to take a nap. Got a long drive ahead of me when we land. You could move closer to DC, you know. Rent's not bad in my neighborhood. She snuggled into the seat. What, and leave my home in Milford? No way. And even if I wanted to, I'd never get Mom to agree. We like it there. If anyone's moving, it's you. He kissed the top of her head. Get some sleep. You're going to need it if any of these credit card charges pan out. 2 hours later, Maggie had the information. Antibiotics, and guess where they were shipped? Portland? Yep. That's not all, though. Turns out the pharmacy was also able to provide the IP address of the computer that ordered the drugs. The tech lab already tracked it to a coffee shop in Portland. Jeremy nodded. Free Wi-Fi makes sense. Maybe, she said. Seems like he's smarter than that, though. Every kid under the age of 30 knows about secured networks. Most people don't care, but Talbot would. He shrugged. Could be that he's on the downside of the bell curve. She closed her laptop in preparation for landing. Whatever. It's a break, and God knows we need one. I'll call the Portland office after we land. Then a quick trip home to see Rebecca, and I imagine I'll be in Bailey's office first thing tomorrow morning. You figure out your plan? Track down Kronfeld. Put this thing to bed once and for all. She tightened her lips and patted his leg. Won't be that easy, you know. Anything I can do to help? You've got your hands full already. I'll take care of it. And by take care of it, you mean I won't do anything stupid. Unless he gets me going. Then I reverse the right to, Play nice. We'll figure this out. The ground crew grew closer. And he shook his head. Yeah. Wish I had more leverage, though. Something to call his bluff on the bogus report. Look at it this way. The last thing Kronfeld wants is for any of this to become public. He can't win. The media would be all over it. No matter what some government document says. Too many questions. Too much negative publicity. No way Senator Morgans wants that. Probably. Unless he's playing us both. What do you mean? Think about it. He said, if this goes public now, no matter what happens, she's got time to deal with it before the primaries start. If Kronfeld takes a hit, she becomes the sympathetic wife. If I go down for it, her husband's still the war hero, standing proudly by her side. And if we both get burned, she's killed two birds. She's killed two birds in the hand with one stone. He chuckled and rubbed his knee. Exactly. The posh cafe buzzed with the swarm of government workers filing in and out. DC in February could be miserable. This morning tested even those limits. Not much wind, but icy cold. Jeremy stamped his feet before jogging across the street and stopping in front of the man seated at the lone outdoor table. Beautiful morning, Colonel Ramsay Kronfeld said. He motioned to the seat opposite. No thanks, I won't be staying. Pity. Nothing like hot coffee on a freezing morning to remind a man what it's like to be alive. None of that fancy, oversaturated sugar water, mind you. The real stuff. Jeremy glanced around. No escort? I wasn't aware I needed one. With your wife running for president, I assumed... Kronfeld flicked his hand in the air. Too early for that. Nonsense. I trust she'll have your vote, though. Never too soon to start politicking, you know? Like I said before, long time between now and the election. I'll keep my options open. Now, why doesn't that surprise me? Jeremy stepped closer to the table and lowered his voice. You want a surprise? I'm not signing the form. Not today. Not ever. Back off, and I'll keep my mouth shut. The colonel dabbed at the corner of his mouth with a napkin. I see. Nonetheless, your decision changes nothing. We won't discuss this again. Take a look around you, Mr. Winter. What do you see? Power. DC reeks of it. There are only two types of people here. Those who have power, and those who want it. How do you suppose you and I fit into that equation? Tension squeezed Jeremy's neck muscles. You said it yourself. What's given can just as easily be taken away. Kronfeld laughed. By you? I don't think so. Oh, I know all about your escapades. Digging through old files, trying to find someone to substantiate your story. Honestly, Mr. Winter, what did you expect to discover? My men are intensely loyal to me, as I am to them. Uh-huh. So loyal that you forced them to sign the confidentiality agreement or get stuck in Afghanistan. The colonel stood and inclined his head toward Jeremy. Have a pleasant day, Mr. Winter, and know that when things happen, as they must, you'll think back to this moment and regret your decision. Oh, I know all about regret, Ramsay. Had more than enough for one lifetime. You want to come at me? Bring it on. He jabbed a finger at Kronfeld's chest. But if you go near Maggie or her family, I promise you, we will meet again. On my terms. A black Lincoln town car pulled to the curb and stopped. The bull-necked driver hustled around the vehicle, opened the rear passenger door, and made eye contact with the colonel. Kronfeld downed the last of his coffee, dropped the cup in the trash, and wiped his palms with a napkin. You still don't understand, do you? You have no terms, no leverage. Things happen because I choose them to be that way. You'll learn. It's simply a matter of how much you're willing to endure before you admit what you already know. Jeremy moved within inches of the colonel. Go to hell. The colonel slid into his vehicle and winked. Been there, Mr. Winter. Things seem to have turned out all right. Chapter 20. Maggie picked her chicken salad croissant, pulling out any large pieces of celery and shoving them to the side. Same girl. I hate celery. The late lunch offered a few minutes of peace since most of the deli's customers had long since returned to work. It doesn't sound like you played nice. He started it, Jeremy said. I swear, you're just... He laughed. I said that to get you going. How'd your meeting with Bailey go? Okay, I guess. The Portland office is interviewing employees and customers at that coffee house today. They're supposed to call me if anything turns up. No security cameras in the restaurant or parking lot, though, so no help there. What's your plan? Gonna hang on in DC until something else breaks. She arched her eyebrows and frowned. Don't see that I've got much choice. Could go back to Portland, but Talbot's long gone from there. Nothing in Pleasant View to see. Chicago's got our best bet. But that's a roll of the dice. Might as well stay close to home until we get something solid. Good. How's Rebecca? Oh, I'm glad you asked. I almost forgot. She reached into her purse and handed him a folded sheet of green construction paper. Another one to add to your zoo collection. A light tingling sensation filled his chest as he opened the rough paper. A grayish blob with 4 stick legs filled most of the page's bottom area. Red dots speckled the animal's feet, and its huge open mouth revealed monstrous teeth. In the background, a blue band flowed from side to side under a bright yellow sun. Hippo, right? She's getting a lot better. Right. She's got my artistic ability, sadly. I think we can rule out a career as a sketch artist, but yeah, that's a hippo. He pointed at the feet. These red dots are... She rolled her eyes. Nail polish. She thought the hippo needed to look nicer. Love it, Maggie. This one goes to the top of the refrigerator. Tell her I said thanks. Tell her yourself. I told Mom you'd be calling after Rebecca gets home from school. He dabbed a French fry in ketchup. First grade. 3 toughest years of my life. That explains a lot. Figure out, what your next move is? Yeah. Kronfeld made a comment that got me thinking. Said his men are loyal to him. Reminded me of something. I've got to make a few phone calls. Track down whatever information I can. But if it leads where... Maggie's phone vibrated, and she held up her index finger as she answered the call. Hold on a sec. Agent Keeley. Okay. Okay. Got a name? Catherine Stanton. With a K? Okay. How long? 4 days? Could be a coincidence. You check with the family? Uh-huh. Okay. Someone on the way to her... Why not? How long before you get the warrant? Uh-huh. Too long. Kick in the door if you have to. She could be in danger. Okay. Let me know as soon as you do. Good work. What's going on? Jeremy asked. She stood and put on her coat. Sorry, I got to get back to the office. No problem. Go get him. I'm gonna hang out here for a while. Maybe finish off that chicken salad for you. I'll check in with you later. Don't forget to call Rebecca. She bent down and kissed him before hurrying out the door. He opened his laptop and searched through several spellings of Catherine before locating her. Surprising how little he missed the FBI database. $10 a month brought him unlimited access to nearly the same amount of information on every person in the country. Catherine Stanton, Portland, Oregon. No Facebook or Twitter. Parents in Seattle, and older sister Sarah in Colorado. He clicked over to Facebook and located Sarah Stanton's profile. Messages, photos, friends, and there. Her phone number. Barely finished the first ring before she answered. Hello? Sarah Stanton? Yes, who's calling? Hello, Miss Stanton. My name is Jeremy Winter. I'm trying to get in touch with your sister. Have you spoken to Catherine lately? Are you a bill collector? The law says you can't call me for my sister's debts. If you call me again, this could be risky, especially if Maggie finds out. Still, no ma'am. I'm working with the FBI on a case. It's important we speak to your sister as soon as possible. Why? Is she in some kind of trouble? We're not sure. That's why we'd like to talk to her. Have you spoken with Catherine in the last several days? No, I haven't. That's not unusual, though. We aren't real close, but we do kind of keep up with each other. Mostly on Facebook and text messages. She's on Facebook? Are you near a computer now? Could you log in and check for any recent entries in her account? Okay. Hold on. A few seconds passed. That's weird. She's, not on there anymore. What's going on? Where's my sister? Miss Stanton, we're working on that. Her apartment is being checked now. If they find anything, they'll let you know. She already got an apartment? I'm sorry? Jeremy said. You didn't know she had her own place? Well, I figured she'd get one, but I didn't know it would be so soon. The last post I saw on Facebook, she just got there. Jeremy's heart stopped. Got where, Miss Stanton? Florida. Sarasota, Florida. Chapter 21. Levi hopped off the bus 2 blocks from his destination and watched as the Sarasota County area transport vehicle drove away. Scat. Well, that was poor planning. Only 9:30 in the morning, and sweat already darkened his t-shirt. A breeze rustled the palm trees, their dry folds scratching against each other. Little brown-green lizards scurried across the concrete, a sidewalk chasing invisible gnats. The Gulf of Mexico's odor filtered through, occasionally, a not-so-delicate mixture of seaweed, fish, salt, and sand. Oh, the ocean. Wintertime in Florida. The snowbirds might be on to something. He walked past an abandoned gas station and several vacant warehouses surrounded by rusty chain-link fences. Up ahead, a string of colored flags circled the perimeter of the car lot, waving desperately at anyone who ventured out this far. The sign out front proudly proclaimed that good credit, bad credit, or no credit, all customers were welcome. A couple dozen vehicles, shiny and fresh, waited eagerly. Like puppies at the pound, none wanted to spend another day here. An old construction trailer served as a worldwide headquarters of Benny's used cars. And its door flew open as the CEO stepped out to attend the day's business. "Beautiful morning, isn't it?" the man said. He dressed impeccably, from a button-down Oxford shirt to spit-shined shoes. "Too hot to be walking, though," Levi said. The man laughed and stuck out his hand. "Well, you've come to the right place. I'm Benny, and our motto is, we're the walking man's friend. Planning to add that to our sign out front as soon as we get the chance." Levi shook his hand. "Sounds great. I was hoping to find something with low miles. A good road car, you know?" Benny nodded, energetically. "What you need is an SUV. Extra weight, rides better, sits up high so you can see what's coming. You do a lot of traveling, do you?" Levi ignored the question and walked to a vehicle with deflated balloons hanging from its outside mirrors. "This one looks nice." The salesman ran his hand over the hood of the black SUV. "Yep, she's a beauty, all right. Toyota FJ Cruiser. She's got a couple of years on her, but the miles are low." Levi grinned. "Don't tell me. Only driven by a little old lady to church on Sundays." Benny's fake laugh echoed across the lot. "You're on to me, aren't ya? I can give you a good deal on it. What do you say? Want to take her out for a spin?" Levi put his hand on the salesman's shoulder. "Tell you what, Benny. I'll take the SUV around the block. When I get back, you're going to give me a price. I'll pay in cash, and there'll be no paperwork." Benny shuffled his feet and avoided eye contact. "Oh, no, sir. We can't do that. There are all sorts of laws that..." "Sure thing, I understand. Thanks for your time." Levi turned to walk away. A hand tapped his arm. "Now, hold on there. We might be able to work something out. I assume you'll want a title and registration as well?" Levi smiled at Benny. "Uh-huh. Pick a nice name to put on them." "Will you be trading in a vehicle?" Levi squeezed the salesman's shoulder. "Now, Benny, what do you think?" An hour later, and $33,000 lighter, Levi sat in a Starbucks sipping an iced coffee. Cat should have made me one of these. He didn't want to spend so much on a vehicle, but the paperwork fees jacked up the price. Not to mention the extra $3,000 to make sure he had anything except Florida tags. Buying from an individual would have been cheaper, but more dangerous. If by some miracle the feds didn't talk to Benny, he couldn't connect Levi to the vehicle without incriminating himself. He'd have to remember to replenish his emergency fund, withdrawing various amounts daily as he traveled. A few hundred here, 1,000 there. His pulse quickened as he surfed the internet. Virtually every news site had his story on the front page. He leaned closer to the screen, trying to read the articles faster. Seeing the old photo of his mother had shocked him, but the FBI wasn't stupid. The sparse details in the stories didn't give much away, but it seemed clear Sandra had been found. Good. She deserved a decent burial now that she'd come around to see things his way. They probably knew about Cat, too. His mistake in ordering the medicine on an unsecured network had turned out to be a blessing. Good luck finding her car or her, though. They'd need scuba gear to locate either one. Poetic justice, in a way. With her love of sushi, she'd feel right at home. Still, the FBI likely assumed he was in Florida. Facebook did come in handy sometimes. You just have to toss out a few breadcrumbs now and then to get them on the right trail. He finished his coffee and paid for a refill. The adrenaline rush would wear off soon, and he needed to stay awake for the long drive. The road conditions were good now, but snow was predicted in the next few days. No problem. He'd always wanted to see Vermont in the winter. Tampa's FBI office was a modern facility, built with security in mind. Armed with guards, protected the gated entrance, and searched all vehicles before allowing them access to the parking garage. Once they verified Jeremy's ID, they waved him through. Though he got the impression they were looking for any reason to keep him out. A receptionist directed him to a temporary office, and he paused to look at the name on the door. Printed, laminated, and centered at eye level. Special Agent Margaret Keeley. He tapped on the door and paused before cracking it open and poking his head inside. "Can I come in?" Maggie tapped a finger on her lips and pondered for a moment before nodding and grinning. "Yes, but leave the door open." "What's that about?" "Trying to keep rumors from starting. It was all I could do to get you in here to begin with. Director Bailey wasn't too thrilled, but I told him you clued us in on Sarasota and might have additional info that could help us out. All as a concerned private citizen, of course." Jeremy dragged a chair closer to her desk and sat. "Of course." Starting to like it that way. Good flight? Guy next to me got a little handsy. I dealt with it. He laughed and shook his head. "I'll bet. Anyone notify his next of kin?" She straightened the papers on her desk and frowned. 207 churches in Sarasota. No way to cover all of them. All business. He cleared his throat and uncrossed his legs. Local PD got Catherine Stanton's photo? Yeah, that, the details of her car, and the updated picture of Charlene Talbot. Stanton's credit card hasn't been used since Oregon. Not surprising. Too risky. We're considering leaking some details about Stanton to the press, she said. Haven't decided yet. Could put her in danger, assuming she's not an accomplice. Maggie squished her lips to one side. You think she's not in danger otherwise? Don't know. Maybe. Probably. She doesn't fit his target profile. Could be she's merely a convenience. Of course, it's just as likely she's already dead. Thought of that. 3 people in the car would get awful crowded on a long drive. Until we have evidence to the contrary, though. He stretched his left leg and massaged the calf. We assume she's alive. Something else occurred to me this morning. I could be overthinking this, but it is possible. But is it possible Talbot's playing us? Wrinkles appeared on her forehead. How so? His story is all over the news now. He wanted publicity, and he's got it. No one's tying the killings to anything religious yet, but they will. Sooner or later, word will leak out. And once the public gets a hold of this, his punishment from God motive, there's going to be a feeding frenzy at the networks. The pressure's already building, but it's on law enforcement, not on him. Yeah, Maggie said, but I don't think he cares much about that. And even if he does, so what? Doesn't change how we operate, or at least, this point, how he does. Talbot's sticking to his pattern. Sandra Kesson is still a question mark, but as far as we know, his other victims fall into place. He's following a process. He's a believer. Jeremy tapped his fingertips together and stared at the ceiling. Okay. Say you're Talbot. Your story's all over the country now. Maybe not the whole thing, but enough. What do you do to avoid being caught? She exhaled loudly. Ditch the car first. Too easy to track. Right. The VIN's in the system, so if he tries to swap the car for a new one, you'll get notified. Plus, we've got cops stopping by every dealer in West Florida, spreading the word. I'd stay on top of the media too. I want to know what they know. Then I'd assume the FBI has a lot more information than the press does. He's got to figure out we're closing in. Exactly. So, what does the FBI know? Well, we know his name and who he's with. Oh, and where he's been and where he's going. You'd think that would be enough, wouldn't you? So why isn't it? Because he's got options. 4 cities to be exact. And we don't know what he looks like. Jeremy scratched his cheek. But we do know that what Charlene and Catherine look like. And that's a threat to him. You think he would harm them? You think he wouldn't? She rested her chin on her fist and focused on the desk. No. Not if he's on some sort of mission, but no bodies so far. He rubbed his eyes and blinked several times. Something's bothering me, Maggie. besides a lack of sleep? Yeah. Why are we here? She scrunched her eyebrows. What kind of a deep question? That's kind of a deep question, isn't it? No. I mean, why are we in Sarasota? She shrugged. It's one of the 4 cities left, and Catherine Stratton posted that she was here. He nodded. And do you think Talbot knows she put that information on the internet? Probably. That's why there haven't been any more posts on Facebook. He shut off her access. And Maggie drummed her fingers on the desk. And he would assume we saw the post, which means Talbot would take for granted the FBI is looking for him in Florida. She shook her head. If I was him, I'd be anywhere but here right now. Me too. If you look at the locations that are left, where would you go? Easy. Brattleboro. Smallest town, and it's going to be tough for him to hide. I'd make a beeline for Vermont and cross it off the list while the FBI's on the other side of the country. She glanced at her watch. I've got to make a call. He motioned toward the door. Want me to wait outside? Yeah, and close the door on your way out. He smiled and saluted. Yes, ma'am. Her lips formed a thin line. And asked the receptionist to check flights to Vermont. Chapter 22. Levi perched on the edge of the bed. Eyes closed, slow, deep breaths. After a few minutes, his heart rate returned to normal, and he walked to the window. His second-floor room offered a scenic view of the parking lot. Piles of icy, early March snow barricaded the perimeters, but the entrance remained clear. The Brattleboro plow drivers would earn their overtime this week. Lodging choices were limited but tolerable. A bit too upscale for his taste. On the drive in, he'd spotted a couple of dairy farms and a few homes scattered about, but no motels. As a result, he ended up in the middle of town. Not his favorite spot. But he did have a good view of the comings and goings on that side of the hotel. The streets teemed with people eager to spend time browsing the art galleries and antique shops. Anyone with common sense would be holed up in their homes with weather this bad, but not here. Not in Vermont. Good for them. Enjoy the day. Life's too fragile to worry. Cast your cares upon the Lord, and I'll take it from there. He closed the curtains and shuffled back to the bed, stooping to pick up the local newspaper on the way. He'd read all 4 pages last night. For sheer entertainment value, the local writing couldn't be beat. The lead story gave updates about the mysterious serial killer stalking the country, possibly even headed to Brattleboro. Ooh, spooky. He'd have to remember to put the chain lock on the door tonight. Still, no sense taking chances. He needed to finish his task on Sunday and move on to somewhere with more opportunity. More places to hide? No, of course not. Blend in. Prepare. Maybe even take a few months off and relax, if that's what God wanted, of course. 2 days. Get it done, and move on. He rolled up the paper and dropped it in the trash can on his way to the shower. The sight of the snow brought back memories of Oregon. Mom, Cat, Miss Subaru. Cold reflections from his past, 3 women waiting to thank him when he went home. Though it was iffy as to whether Cat would be there. What a reunion it'll be. The hot shower relaxed his muscles and mood. He dried off and hung his towel on the rack so housekeeping would leave it, doing his part to save the planet. Might be a small gesture, but wasn't that how big change started? Sandra Keeson would agree. Important day today. Learn the town, get a sense of the roads, shops, and churches. Got to find the right place, but Brattleboro had barely 24 houses of worship, and most of them were of the tiny tourist picture variety. He scanned the list on his laptop again and ruled out several immediately. Nothing more than glorified cults. Not worthy of his time. Best to let him decide. He closed his eyes, pointed at the computer screen, and moved his hand in circles. Right here. He peeked and clicked on the link for the chosen church. Small white building, looks like a one-room schoolhouse. A new pastor, visitors welcome, members expected. How quaint. He sprang off the bed and paced the floor, his fingers jittery. Laughter from the hallway crept into the room, and he pressed his eye against the peephole, both palms flat against the cool metal door. 2 women passed by, their jeans tucked in suede boots and white ski coats, enveloping everything from the thighs up. Hoods lined with faux fur flopped against their backs, bouncing in tandem. Levi's hands slid inches down the door. One of the women whispered to the other, both giggling, and they were gone. Time stopped. Levi stood motionless, stared out the peephole. Hot, painful breath streamed across the raised hairs on his left arm. A coppery drop of blood from his lip dissolved on his tongue. Warmth tremored through his body. Finally, he straightened, arched his back, and sighed. Wet handprints remained on the metal door. Mementos of what could be. He grabbed his coat and headed out. Time to see who else Brattleboro had to offer. Jeremy phoned from his Tampa hotel room. You touched base with the local police yet? I told you, Maggie said. I just got here. They put me on a flight routed through Detroit. It was delayed for 4 hours. You ever spend any time in the Detroit airport? He turned down the volume on his cell phone. No, Maggie, I don't believe I have. Yeah, well, don't. They tried to bump me off the next flight, but I flashed my ID and told them it was a matter of life or death. Uh-huh. I'm sure the ticket agent didn't take that as a threat. I'm not in the mood, Jeremy. No kidding. Sorry. Look, get settled in and then give me a call, okay? She sighed. No, it's all right. I get a little cranky after a long travel day. Really? Haven't noticed. A half laugh came through the phone. Whatever. As soon as I hang up, I'll get with the Battleboro cops and let them know I'm in town. Maybe stop by and visit the chief to find out if they've taken any precautions. Sounds like a good start. Be careful, though. Don't want to set off any alarms. We can't be sure Talbot is there, and you don't want the locals putting the churches on lockdown. FBI closes churches. That's the headline you don't want Bailey to see. I'll be subtle. Figured I'd spend tomorrow checking out Talbot's options. The town's not that big, but there seem to be a lot of tourists around. The desk clerk said there was some sort of a music and arts festival this weekend. Just our luck. Jeremy paused before responding. I'm not sure that'll be an issue. Really? More strangers in town translate to more possible suspects. Think about what we know, Maggie. Talbot picks his victims from churches, most likely observing them there. Sure, but it's not like I can ask every church to get a photo ID from any visitors. Actually, I could, but I like my job. Wait. I'll get the local cops involved. Put a plainclothes officer in every Christian church in town, even if they have to call in people from half the state to cover it. Make sure they have a description of the women with Talbot and the car. Tell them the FBI will pay for everything. How are you going to get that approved? I'm not. But by the time they figure that out, I hope to be gone. He chuckled. Fast learner. Yeah, I figured 99% of the tourists won't be going to church, especially with the weather. Should narrow down the search quite a bit. 99%? You're probably still low. I'll have the officers phone in as soon as the service is over. If there were visitors, we want to know. Tell them to be subtle, but any information they can get will help. License plates, that sort of thing. Jeremy grinned and pressed the phone closer to his mouth. I gotta say it, Maggie. I'm proud of you. Yeah, well, I learned a lot from this old guy that used to work here, and thanks, really. So, what's your plan? Hang out at the beach? Not likely. Still finding sand in places I'd rather not. Beats the snow you've got, though. I'll stay here a few more days, see if anything turns up. And pray it's before they find a body. Levi awakened early. His stomach churned, but whether from butterflies or the hotel room coffee, he couldn't be sure. Sleep had come easily and, other than the occasional door slamming somewhere in the hotel, been peaceful. Sunday morning. Time to be about the Lord's business. First things first. A good meal to get the day started right. The hotel offered a free continental breakfast, whatever that meant. English muffins with jelly, most likely. Still, the price was right. He passed the elevator and took the stairs down 2 flights to the lobby. The buffet. Bio and shocking too. Yes. Hi, Crabs. How you doing today? If you want to try another one, the book we're reading is called Dead of Winter. The buffet meandered along a counter with steam rising from several spots. An older man wearing black pajama pants and a sleeveless t-shirt poked at the sausages, checking each one closely before dropping half a dozen on his plate. The waffle iron had batter dripping from every side. Ugh. Looks like drool from an overweight bulldog. A mother held her young daughter high so the tot could see the scrambled eggs. Levi looked away when the little girl sneezed directly on them. The only untouched item was a stainless steel pot at the end of the counter. He glanced in and saw 4 or 5 gallons of oatmeal, mixed with what he assumed were raisins. He placed a hand on his stomach and turned to go. Got to be a coffee shop in an artsy town like this. 3 men sat at a table near the door, apparently not concerned about the buffet's health code violations. As he passed them, a snippet of conversation floated by. So, what church did they stick you with? Levi didn't slow, but his mind and heart sprinted. It could be nothing, just a precaution. After all, law enforcement would know Brattleboro was on his list, or it might be more than that. The men didn't look FBI, not unless their standards had loosened. He forced himself not to look back. A young woman at the front desk smiled and wished him a good morning. He nodded, but was afraid to speak. He had to find some place to think. God would tell him what to do. A cluster of shops lined the street, and he headed toward them. Twice, he slipped on patches of ice, but righted himself. Other people strolled the sidewalks, and he watched them in his peripheral vision. His leg muscles were tense, ready to spring if needed. He paused at a shop window and stared into the reflection. Works in the movies. No one following as far as he could tell. A cafe across the street advertised an all-organic breakfast. He walked to the corner and strolled over, wondering when he'd started humming Jesus Loves Me. The wind blustered in his face. Tears trickled down his cheeks. It's the cold. That's it. The restaurant was small and uncrowded. He checked the menu and ordered bacon, eggs, and coffee, all organic. Appeared to be code for double the price. The coffee arrived, and he wrapped his hands around the mug, allowing the heat to soak through his palms. He focused on the rising wisps of steam and tried to clear his mind. Joseph, Samson, Job, Paul, all suffered yet persevered. And in the end, hadn't they won the battle? But was he worthy to be included in that list? He tried to obey. Sometimes it was hard, but that's why God forgives. If he is for me, who can be against me? The FBI? God's bigger. He takes care of his children. Snow began to fall and pile along the window ledge. Miserable day to be out. Attendance at the churches would be down, and that would, of course. His feet tingled and tapped them, and he tapped them on the floor. Heat radiated through his chest as his heart pumped life through his body. Tension faded. He blinked several times and took a couple of deep breaths, burying his face in warm, steamy palms. Thank you, Lord, for this food I'm about to eat, and thank you for your mercy that's new every day. Someone's going to need it. 3 hours later, he cruised past the one-room church and counted the vehicles in the parking lot. 12. With only minutes before the service started, he doubted anyone would show up. The snow continued, and ice pellets ricocheted off his windshield. If the police were there, they were already inside the church. Good for them. Best place to be on Sunday morning. Might even learn something. He turned his SUV around and stopped half a block away. Leaving the engine running was a risk, but he had no choice if he wanted to see anything. Ice would overwhelm the windshield if the defroster didn't keep running. Already a pure white blanket formed on top of the old snow, removing any trace of footprints. Light streamed from the church's windows, bounced off the bleached ivory ground, creating an image worthy of a postcard. Hi, Mom. Wish you were here. The flurries increased and visibility shrank. No worry. It reinforced his confidence. Anyone would go to church Anyone who would go to church in this kind of weather must be a true believer. And the Bible says believers are blameless and pure. Only clean, unblemished sheep might make acceptable sacrifices, which the service ended. He would choose from the flock as they paraded past. Moments later, the sanctuary door opened, and a man stepped out, quickly closing the door behind him. Levi recognized him from the hotel lobby. A flame flashed, and the man lit a cigarette. Hello, officer. No visitors today? After a few puffs, the cop flicked the still burning butt toward the street and hustled back inside. 20 minutes later, the sanctuary door swung open, and a young man stood there, shaking hands with each person as they left. He didn't have to stand in the cold long. The building emptied as 20 or so people ducked their heads and hurried to their vehicles. The officer exited last and paused to speak to the pastor. Both men shook their heads. The decision turned out to be simple. Other than the cop, only one person attended the service by herself. A middle-aged woman stepped toward a minivan, planting each foot firmly before taking the next step. She sat in the vehicle while the engine warmed and the windshield defrosted. The undercover officer trudged to his car, and Levi scrunched lower in his seat. He peered through the steering wheel and watched the cop drive away. His chosen sacrifice left shortly after, and he eased the SUV down the street, maintaining ample distance between them. The woman steered out of town and into the rolling hills of the Vermont countryside. The main streets were recently plowed, making travel easier. They drove a few miles before she turned off onto a smaller road. Her minivan slowed and to a crawl as she followed the mostly invisible path. Too risky. He stayed on the main road and kept his speed before cresting a hill and losing sight of her in his rearview mirror. At the bottom of the slope, he turned around and headed back to town. The taillights of the woman's vehicle were still visible, and he slowed to mark the location in his memory. Interesting. The sheep lives on a dairy farm. Don't get too comfortable. Got to stop by the hotel and check out, but we'll get acquainted soon. He dabbed at the drop of sweat trickling down his eyebrow. real soon. Chapter 23. This will be the last chapter of today. I'd like to go ahead and check out, Levi said. Trying to get out of here before the weather gets any worse. The desk clerk nodded. Certainly, sir. Let me check your account. He printed a summary of the charges and reviewed the list before passing it over. You're all set, Mr. White. Paid in full. I didn't charge you for today, even though checkout time was 3 hours ago. I must say, we don't get many people who pay in cash anymore. Never trusted credit cards. Too many friends got in trouble with them. I understand completely, the clerk said. I do hope you'll stay with us again the next time you're in Brattleboro. Thank you. I'm sure I will. He faced the door and turned up the collar of his coat. A group of men gathered around the tables in the dining area, sipping coffee and laughing. The cigarette-smoking officer from the church sat with them. A female voice settled the group. All right, let's get started. Levi fidgeted with his coat zipper and tilted his head to get a view of the speaker. The woman had reddish hair and a decent figure. Not unattractive for a woman her age. My name is Maggie Keeley. I'm your FBI contact for this case. Levi picked up his suitcase and moved toward the exit. Margaret Keeley. Pleased to meet you. The temperature had risen and freezing rain fell, creating a thin sheet of ice on top of the snow. A salt concoction kept the sidewalks clear, but his footsteps crunched as he moved through the parking lot. After tossing his bag in the back of the SUV, he pulled away without waiting for the vehicle to warm. He drove to a public parking lot and popped open the rear hatch. No one walked the streets now. The rain kept them huddled indoors, away from the elements. He unzipped the suitcase and moved aside a t-shirt. A daisy from the lobby display perched atop his dirty laundry. A plastic flower, not ideal, but beggars can't be choosers. Turned out there's not a lot of demand for fresh daisies this time of year in Vermont. At least, it's white. He placed the flower in his duffel bag and moved it to the front seat. The genesis of a plan floated through his mind. But there were too many variables. She probably didn't live alone. The dairy farm looked small, but it was too much for one person. A husband and children were definite possibilities. The broken-down car routine was always an option, but it seemed too predictable. Cliché. Plus, if there were others in the house, he'd still have to deal with them. Tiny droplets of sweat beaded above his lip. He wiggled his fingers to feed the adrenaline to his mind. Or maybe he could cut the communication lines like they do in the movies. Nope. Cell phones ruined everything. He flexed his toes and cracked his knuckles. What if he got a cow costume and sneaked up on her? But doesn't that take 2 people? Half a cow. She'd have to come outside to see that. His scalp tingled and he scratched at it with both hands. Get serious. Focus. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and held it, waiting for his heart rate to stabilize. No time to plan. Improvise. Have faith. He put the SUV in gear, and drove toward the dairy farm. When God wanted a sacrifice, he provided one. Hadn't Abraham found a ram in time to save Isaac? The Lord would furnish one for him as well. He drove to where he had last seen Miss Minivan and pulled off the main road. Her vehicle tracks were still there, though somewhat reduced by the mixed freezing precipitation. He kept along until he could get a better view of the farm. A large red building dwarfed the white one-story house. The front of the barn structure stretched toward him. Hello. Welcome in. A friend, good job. Yes. Hope you are well today. The front of the barn structure stretched toward him, a rectangular space covered with a metal roof. A huge white door took up most of the front, and windows lined the sides. The back of the rectangle fed into much taller barn with openings on either side. A silo stood next to the building, a towering sentinel watching over the farm. Looks like the cows live better than the people. Smoke drifted from a chimney at the house. People inside. 2 four-wheelers sat parked by a side door, and trails ran in all directions. Kids. Movement caught his eye. A man in overalls grabbed logs from a woodpile and trampled into the home. He backed the SUV down the road until the house was no longer visible. Thoughts scurried around his mind. Sacrifice them all? Too many people in the house. No escape route. He has to be away. Otherwise, he'd have to wait. And then what? Can't go back to town. Police are everywhere. Can't go back to Florida. Maybe God was telling him not today. Take some time off, but why? Did he not understand what needed to be done? He pressed his forehead against the steering wheel, screamed, frustrated. His ears pounded in time with his pulse. Failure. It wasn't his fault. Couldn't be. He'd done everything right. But God allows bad things to happen to good people. The prophet Job lost everything, didn't he? But God gave it all back with extra. Satan tested Job. Satan tries to destroy everything that's good. Levi sat up straight and twisted the mirror to see himself. The steering wheel imprint arced above his eyebrows, a red frown showing its disapproval. He brushed away tears, ran his sleeve under his nose. God's plans were delayed, but not cancelled. This was another test, that's all. He would show himself worthy of the task and strike back at Satan. Force him to retreat. But how? There had to be a way to... Levi's lips turned up at the corners as he received his instructions. The Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. He took away this sacrifice for something... someone... better. The Lord giveth him... Margaret Keeley. Jeremy sat on the Sarasota restaurant's patio, watching seagulls swoop in the ocean breeze. A young boy tossed Cheetos in the air, laughing as the birds snatched them. His parents stretched on blankets near him and roasted in the midday sun. "What's going on there?" Maggie said. "I hear a lot of noise." Jeremy held the phone closer to his face. "Sorry, got the TV turned up too loud." "Uh-huh. You're at the beach, aren't you?" "I don't believe it. I'm freezing my you-know-what off. and you're on vacation. Sorry, Maggie. I go where the job takes me. I mean, if I had a job. Still got to eat though, right? Walk down to this little beachside cafe. I'm telling you, this is about the best chicken salad and mango iced tea I've ever had. He slurped his drink, making as much noise as possible. That tea is so good. Now, where were we? You were digging a hole. And I'm getting nowhere. Dead end yesterday. Only 2 churches in Brattleboro had visitors. Both of them checked out. No Astor Bellis at any of the hotels either. Unless you know something I don't. Still quiet in Sarasota too. There was a murder Sunday night, but it was a domestic issue. If Talbot's here, he's biding his time. Chicago and Nashville didn't have anything unusual either. Speaking of Nashville, you talked to Claire Lawson lately? Jeremy motioned to the waitress to refill his drink. Yeah, poor kid. She sounded okay, though. She's taking handgun classes. Says she's a pretty good shot, too. Talbot might be better off if we find him first. Not much more I can do here. I'm heading home. See if I can light a fire under someone and find Talbot's father. You headed back to DC? 2 seagulls, tangled in midair, fighting for that last Cheeto. Not just yet. I think I'm going to do more poking around back in Texas. Right. While you're there, lay off the chicken fried steak. That stuff will clog your arteries. It builds a brick wall inside them, and tell Shirley I said hello. Jealous? She chuckled. Mom keeps telling me I could do better. I thought she liked you. Can be so dense sometimes. Yes, she likes you. A lot. As much as Cheryl does? Idiot. Call me tonight, early, before Rebecca goes to bed. She's taking requests now on what animal to draw next. Better come up with a good one. On it. Love you guys. Why was it so hard to put the I at the beginning? She sighed. We love you too. Though for the life of me, I can't figure out why. Jeremy waited just inside the entrance of the side porch restaurant, out of view of most diners. The daily special hadn't changed, neither had the employees. The waitress made eye contact and a grin spread across her face as she hurried toward him. Welcome back, honey, Shirley said. Where's your girlfriend? Hi, Shirley, he said. Just me this time. Wonder if you could do me a favor? She wiped her hands on her apron. Business or pleasure? Business. Jeremy reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out a photograph. The FBI photo lab had aged Anthony Talbot, but left the picture black and white. I was hoping you could show this around. See if anyone recognizes this man. Shirley held up the picture at eye level, squinting and moving the photo closer and farther from her face. Doesn't look familiar. Why don't we walk through the restaurant and ask some of the regulars? That's a good idea, Shirley, he said, but the waitress scooted closer. Cheryl. But I'm afraid my presence might make people afraid to speak openly. It's probably best if you go by yourself. they're more likely to talk to someone they know. Like your official deputy, huh? She arched her back, then snapped her hand to her forehead and gave a salute. Aye, aye, sir. Thanks, Cheryl. I'll stop by later and see if you had any luck. Make sure you're hungry. I'll fix you something extra special. Can't wait. He forced a smile. Sounds great. Got to make another stop down the road, but I should be back in an hour or so. Jeremy sat in his car outside the Second Baptist Church of Pleasant View. It didn't look like anyone was there, but he couldn't be sure. His fingers drummed on the dash. Stalling. His stomach churned. Why was he so nervous? Something about churches. He stepped out of the car and walked to the building, hoping the door was locked. It wasn't. He inhaled deeply and stepped into the sanctuary. Pastor Grayson Winford sat in the back pew. I wondered how long you were going to sit out there, the preacher said. Hello, Pastor. Good to see you again. Jeremy shook the old man's hand, careful not to squeeze too hard. I just wanted to ask a few follow-up questions. Certainly, son. He patted his hand on the pew. Have a seat. We're trying to find Anthony Talbot and have hit a dead end. He may be involved in all of this, or he may not be. Either way, we need to find him. I was hoping you might have remembered something that could help. The old man shook his head. Don't believe I ever saw him before that night. I'm sure I haven't seen him since, but everyone has their secrets. Some of them I know, some I don't. I didn't know Charlene's. Okay then. Well, thanks for your time. Jeremy brushed his hand across his forehead and stood to leave. Sit down, son. Sir? You didn't come here to talk about the Talbots. I'm no FBI agent, but I do know you have a telephone. You could have called. And you aren't the first person that sat in their car debating whether or not to come in. Truth be told, most of the time, they drive away. It makes me sad when they leave, like they think they can drive away from God. Jeremy shook his head and eased into the pew. God? This isn't about religion. God and religion are two different things. Most folks never figure that out. Carry their pain their whole life. Jeremy rubbed his leg, imagining he could feel the scar under his pants. They teach you that in seminary? The pastor scratched his whiskers. I never went to seminary. Got most of my Bible learning the old-fashioned way, by studying it. That must have taken a while. Oh, it did. Or I should say it does. Not finished yet. And don't figure I ever will be. But when you're sitting behind bars for nearly 20 years, you've got the time. Jeremy straightened in the pew. Really? I have never guessed you were in prison. Can I ask why? You can ask. But first, answer this for me. Does it make any difference? He frowned and stared at his lap. No, I suppose it doesn't. We've all got a past, Mr. Winter. Jeremy scanned the sanctuary, left to right, top to bottom. Dusty wood, worn hymnals, Pulpit and pews and stained glass. Yeah, we do. Grayson placed his hand on Jeremy's shoulder. Want to talk about it? I think we already did. Alright, and that is where we're going to stop today. But I will see you in the next stream. Thank you so much for stopping by. And I will see you guys later. Alrighty, friendos, have a good, and I'll get the raid started. Bye.